All right, so we've made this part, the chocolate mold, and we're going to go ahead and save that, which I probably should put in last video, but let's say save as, and I'm just going to save it. I'll just put it on my desktop. You guys always save to your Google Drive. Okay, just for kicks, we're just going to put it right here. Okay. And now what we need to do is we're going to create a block, a solid block, that we're going to put this mold, this design inside of and turn into a negative, so that we can then have a cavity for our 3D print to then make the product. So this is what our product's going to look like. But in order to have that cavity, I'm going to need to make a block. So I'm going to start another part file, and we'll start a sketch. And this one's going to be very simple. It's just going to be a big rectangle, and it's going to be slightly bigger than what I designed as my finished product. Okay, so my other one was 1.5 inches tall, so we're going to go ahead and make this guy 2 inches tall. The other one was 5.5 inches wide, so this will be 6 inches wide. Okay, so it's a solid. Now the other one we ended up making 1/2 inch thick, so we're going to go ahead and make this one 3/4 inch thick. So we'll go ahead and extrude it, and we're going to extrude it 0.75. And say, okay, there it is. Now what's going to make my life a little easier, and you'll see why in a little bit, if we make it translucent. So I'm going to make it so we can see through this. So I like to use the clear options in here, and we'll just go clear green. All right, so we get something like that. And we will then go ahead and say File, Save As. And we called the first one chocolate mold, or really, it was really the bar. So I'm going to change its name to chocolate bar. And we're going to call this guy the mold. And we'll hit save. And it doesn't like that. And I'm trying to give it a name of something I already made. Let's just call it chocolate block. Save. Okay? So we have our two pieces made, chocolate mold, chocolate block. What I'm going to do now is open up an assembly, and we'll bring both pieces in. So I'm going to click on Place on the top left, and I remember where I saved it. We bring in chocolate bar. There's that. And go back to Place, and bring in chocolate block. You'll see the block is slightly bigger than the bar. Okay. Now it's going to be an open face mold. Sometimes we center these things into the block, and this one we're not going to. So I'm going to look at it from the back side, and I need 3 constraints on here. First one's just going to be a flush. And I'm going to say, hey, the back of this bar, that's the work plane, not what I want, flush. The back of the bar, make sure you don't select that work plane, it wants to select. The back of the bar should be flush to the back of the block, just like that. Apply. Then we're going to use mate for the other two, because we need to get this centered on here. And I'm going to say this edge, and I can't choose the face because it's at a slant because of that taper. I'm going to choose this edge of the bar, should be with the side face of the block. Now, we want it to be centered on there, and because it's a 1/2 inch shorter than the block, we're going to offset it by 0.25. And what you'll see is sometimes the 0.25 will go the right way, and sometimes we need to turn it into a negative. In this case, I need a negative. Yours might be a negative, it might be a positive, but you will see from left to right it is now centered. And we'll hit apply. I'm going to do the exact same thing from the top to the bottom. So the top edge of that chocolate bar to the top face of the block, we'll put those together. We're going to offset it 0.25, and again, it didn't go the way I wanted it to, so we're going to make it a negative. And that's going to get it right there. Okay. So now my chocolate bar is perfectly centered, and you'll see it doesn't go the full depth of the block. There's still block in here, and it's in there. But we have a solid inside of a solid. So that's great, but it is not the finished product yet. So we'll go ahead and just save that. And I'm just going to call it assembly 1. It is the chocolate assembly. Save that. Now here's where it gets fun. We're now going to open a brand new part file. So you open a standard IPT. And what we're going to use is what's called, we go to Manage. And when we click on that, we're in an option called Derive Component. Okay? So we'll click on that. And we're going to want to go find that assembly that we made. So, Google Drive. And there's the assembly. I'm going to bring it in. What this gives me the option, it's saying right now my chocolate bar is a solid. That's what the yellow plus means. And it's saying my chocolate block is also a solid. So in effect, I have a solid inside of a solid, which is not my end goal. You have three options up here for the derived style. And by default, it chooses the third option. Okay? But when the third option is selected, you don't have the opportunity to use this negative command right here, where it subtracts the component. So what you need to do is you need to choose either option 1 or option 2. It doesn't matter, because with either of those options, this negative is available. So either one of these will work. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the bar. We don't want the entire block, we just want the bar that you designed. And I'm going to go to where it says it's a positive, which means solid, and I'm going to click on it until it becomes a negative. And you'll see that it highlighted. And when I hit OK, if I rotate this, you're going to see that it just subtracted off everything that was part of that design. So I now have a cavity in the shape of what I had originally designed as my bar. Okay? Now it's really convenient that we have these planes on here because we're going to use those to split this. Because if we were to 3D print this as our mold and fill it with chocolate, you're never getting that chocolate come out of there because it's a solid mold. So we need to split this mold into quarters so that we can save all 4 quarters as their own STL file so we can bring it together, pour the chocolate in there. When it solidifies, we can break off each of the 4 quarters and have our finished product left over. Okay. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go to 3D Model, and you're going to see a feature on here called Split. So when I click on Split, it says, what tool do you want to use? Basically, what are you going to split this with? And that's going to be the work plane that is available. And so I'll go ahead and choose this work plane right here. This one that goes right through the middle. And in this, we're not going to be selecting my faces. We're going to say that we're going to use solids. So I'll click this little green guy right here. And then that gives me this, what they call the keep side, or the behavior. Okay? If you keep this top option, it's going to keep both sides, which doesn't do anything for us. So we want option 1 or option 2. So I'm going to start with option 1. And I'm going to hit OK. And what that did is just removed half of my mold. Now I'm going to go to Split again. This time, my tool is going to be this vertical plane that goes right through the middle here. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to keep this side again, and hit OK. Now we have a quarter of our mold. At this point, you're going to save this as an STL file. So you'll go up to File, Save As, but don't click on it. You're going to go to the arrow to save Copy As. And then what you'll do is you'll change the file type to an STL file and call this one, you're going to give it a name of, maybe call it the top left part of the mold, the top left part, something like that. And once you've saved that into your Google Drive, let's go back to this split. We'll just go to Split 2. I'm going to edit the feature, and I'm going to switch this. And now you're going to go save this as an STL file, and you'll call it top right. Then go back to the split, the first split, and switch it. And you can save this one as bottom right, and then obviously you'll go back to the other split and change it back. And you'll say this is the bottom left. When you are done doing that, you will have 4 different STL files, one for each quadrant of your mold. With those, you can 3D print them, put together your mold, melt the chocolate, pour it into the cavity, allow it to solidify. Usually we put it in a refrigerator or freezer to let it harden. And then when you're ready, come out and work to remove the mold. And hopefully you have a finished product in the shape of what you originally designed.